Greetings to everyone. Today I have a very interesting story waiting for you. I don't want to make you wait, but I only ask for your support in the form of liking this video. I suggest you start. Monsters have brought great depression and disappointment to this world. The monsters destroyed a little more than 90% of humanity. They made it completely disappear. Monsters mock and kill people simply for their own pleasure. Only one person in this world can drive a monster crazy, and that is Zobai, but so far, he doesn't know it himself. The monster asks where he disappeared to. What kind of mosaic is this? This boy had a special ability, it was stealth. In a prone state, he can block any attacks. He was lying on the ground and said that he was not even in pain. The monster started yelling at him, "What the hell is he lying there? He can't do anything." He was telling the boy to get up and fight him. Turn back time, is it possible at all? It was not clear who is afraid of whom, Zobai, monsters, people. This story is about the fear of all demons and about Zobai who started from the lowlands and reached the invisible peaks. The boy shouts, "Wait, this is a rookie village, could he at least give him some task?" The boy ran towards the light, which he saw very far from him, at the very end of the tunnel, so there must have been a way out of this incomprehensible place. He says his name is Zobai. He is an ordinary person who does not like to work at all. His goal is to be lazy every day, lie down and earn money without making any effort, because probably no one wants to make any effort at work. But why has he moved to such a strange place, and that this strange monster is chasing him? He is definitely not ready to die yet. He doesn't want to. He had almost reached the exit. He was literally 5 meters away. He jumped out the door as quickly as possible. The boy quickly closed them and turned the lock to close them. The boy stood and held the door, believing that it would help him to save himself, but it was not certain, because this terrible monster was very big and he would definitely have enough strength to tear the door. He turned back and saw that there was no way out, it was just a dead end. Suddenly, the monster began to break down the door, and the boy says that most likely, this door will not last long, but what should he do now? Is it possible for him to just stand there and wait for his death? But he didn't want that at all. He went through all the options in his head. Suddenly a voice was heard from somewhere. The voice asked if this boy's name was Zobai. The boy did not understand who it was and where the girl's voice came from. The voice continued to say that the boy should not even try to find him, he would never succeed. The girl's voice asked Zobai if he wanted to survive. Zobai quickly replied that of course he wanted to. Who didn't want to live? What he needed to do for that. The girl's voice began to tell him that he needs to accept this cheat. With it he will be able to destroy the monster from the outside, but the main thing is that he remembers that you can never reject and limit him. The boy quickly took the cheat and said that he did not have time to discard it. He does not want to die in such a place. A strange download has begun. The system of survival and cultivation in the destroyed world is activated. The boy says that it's cool. Words appeared in his head, but what does the survival and cultivation system mean? It sounds like something very powerful. He didn't understand how to use it all. The girl's voice began to explain that Taoism is the kingdom, and God Yuan is power. It is the way of cultivation. The energy of laziness is an ingredient that is needed for his pumping. Laziness is the basis of life. He will be able to collect the energy of laziness and pump himself. The voice says that he needs to turn his laziness into a treasure. For this he needs to work hard. The boy tells her to speak closer to the point, because he is stupid and does not understand anything yet. The girl's voice quickly explained that the best way to absorb the energy of laziness is to just lie down. The girl's voice started shouting at the boy, what is he waiting for? He has to go to bed, but he should remember that he needs to raise his aura energy to increase his strength. The boy replies that this cheat is quite strange. The boy asks if he lies down at such a time, if he will at least die, because most likely this will happen. He quickly lay down on the ground. He did not understand at all what would happen next. Suddenly, the energy began to gradually increase. He realized that there was an option to add spiritual energy. The boy says to himself that he should think about adding aura energy, because without it, he will definitely not be able to defeat this terrible monster. The energy is gradually rising. He was happy. The energy of laziness turned into aura energy. The boy says it's power, it's real aura energy. The girl's voice asked the boy if he succeeded. Aura energy can hurt people, he can do anything. He says that now he can control this thing with his power. Suddenly there was a very loud crash, dust rose and the door was gone. A very big and scary monster came out of the tunnel. The boy was surprised by what he saw. He did not understand what it was. What kind of ugly monster is this? The boy still didn't understand how to attack him, but he said that it was necessary to attack using aura energy. The boy hit the monster straight. The boy hit him once more. He was glad that he was successful. But suddenly the monster caught the boy's blow with his ugly hand. The boy understood that his strength was no longer enough. Zhou Bei says that he needs to quickly convert all his laziness into aura energy. The energy of the aura began to appear again and quite quickly. The boy tried to hit the monster again. The system gradually loaded. His eyes were filled with aggression. He shouted forward. He would release all of his aura energy. The monster fell to the ground and died. The boy was happy and said that this monster just looks very big, but in reality it is so weak. Zhou Bei added that he was so strong, comparing him to a monster. Suddenly he woke up and didn't understand what it smelled like, hand sanitizer. The boy mentally says that this place is completely unknown to him. Where is he? He did not understand anything at all. He was lying in bed, and a little girl was sitting on a chair next to him. Zhou Bei asked her who she was. She was sitting on a chair and calmly eating cookies. Suddenly she jumped up and started running. She said that this person had already woken up. He had eaten all his cookies. She didn't touch anything at all. Zhou Bei tells the girl that no one needs her cookies at all. He looked into the jar where the cookies were. He was very surprised because there was only one small piece of cookie left. The boy took it and began to eat it, but quickly spat it out and said that it was long gone. Zhou Bei looked at himself in the mirror and did not understand why he looked younger. He seemed to be 17 or 18 years old. Suddenly he remembered how the monster was chasing him. It seemed to him that his body was getting lighter and lighter the more he ran. He says that his body has changed during this time. Zhou Bei laughed and began to say that when he was young, he was quite so handsome. A man in a white coat entered the room and said that he finally woke up. Zhou Bei should follow him because they need to register him, and behind this man was the same little girl. She was asking where are the cookies. Almost all the walls here are made of steel. There is a very brutal defense here. Some people fought for food. The living conditions here are absolutely miserable. The little girl turned to the man and said that she was hungry. The man replied that she had just had dinner. He would threaten her a little later. It was not at all clear why only children were there. There were so many different races of people. Maybe it's some kind of mystical base. Zhou Bei didn't understand when he switched off. He checked the cheat was in place, but he was lying on the bed for so long. Why his energy is at zero. The man led Zhou Bei into the room and invited him to enter. The man asked the boy his name, age and the country in which he lived. The boy answered that his name was Zhou Bei. He lived in China, but there is a problem with his age. He does not remember his age. The man said that he never heard of China before. The boy wondered why this man didn't know anything about China. Suddenly he noticed that he wasn't speaking Chinese. It was like the cheat gave him the ability to speak the language spoken in this strange place. The man closed the magazine and told the boy that now he lives there and from now on he will not have the peaceful days he had before. The boy was surprised by what he heard. The man asked him if he did not understand anything yet. This world has already come to an end. There are only 42 people left in this world, who are now on this base. They were the last survivors on this planet. if you count his boyhood, then there are already 43. Zhou Bei did not understand what had happened to them. How could this happen, that there were only 43 people left? What was happening to this world, and what about the monster that was chasing him? He calmed himself down and said that he had to wait and see what will happen next. He stayed at this location and looked around the entire base for a week. This base was closed and underground. This underground base is divided into 5 levels. The first level is a dangerous zone. As they say, it is like hell, that if a person goes there without special protection, he will die. The second and third floors are the floors where people live, and on the 4th floor there is a warehouse with a large amount of supplies. On the 5th floor, there is a laboratory where only Dr. Chong can enter. There are no windows in the room where Zhou Bei lives. His room somewhat resembles a prison. Zhou Bei did not understand how it could be that there are so many small children in this base, except for one adult, that is Dr. Chong. How did he feed all these children? Suddenly the doctor shouted and said that he came back with food. A little girl was sitting on the ground and eating something cute. The doctor brought Zhou Bei a plate of food and said that now there is a shortage of food, there is only this artificial food and nutritional biscuits. Zhou Bei took the plate and began to eat. He put a spoonful of this artificial food in his mouth. He spat out the disgusting food and quickly put the plate away. Zhou Bei said that it was just terrible. He had already forgotten that even those cookies were much tastier. A little girl ran up to Zhou Bei and grabbed a plate. She asked him if the scary little brother wanted to eat. Dr. Chong came over and took her plate from her. He told her that she would feel sick if she ate some more. She was already full. Her brain just wasn't responding properly. The girl started shouting that she wanted to eat. She was not full yet. The doctor started to tell Zhou Bei that he forgot to introduce himself. He said that Zhou Bei can call him Dr. Chong, and this little girl's name is Aisha. She is his neighbor room and for Zhou Bei to ask her any questions he might have. Zhou Bei asked if she could be trusted at all, if she wasn't going to eat him at night, because that's what it looked like. Dr. Chong tells Zhou Bei that he has nothing to worry about. She's just a little gluttonous, although she likes to eat a lot, but she doesn't eat people. Zhou Bei anxiously asks the doctor if he's sure, because right now she's drinking him blood. Dr. Chong assured him that everything would be fine. She only gets a little mad when she sees food. After eating, they have to go to class. Their knowledge is the same as Zhou Bei's. Some of them are similar, some of them are different. They have never heard anything like what Zhou Bei knows about history or geography, mathematics, physics, natural science that Zhou Bei knows. The boy says in his mind that he heard that there will be a special lesson today. Dr. Chong began to say that today's lesson was titled Heaven's Demon Lesson. He showed a picture of one of the monsters and said that in this class, they will dissect this three-eyed demon. The outside world has long been captured by the demons of heaven. They must obtain the power that will help them defeat the demons of heaven. Dr. Chong went on to say that the three-eyed demon wolf is a warrior and killer that has the ability to transform into 1,000 different creatures. To defeat this demon, the main thing is to have a strong psyche and not be infected by killer spirits. You should never be afraid to die, and the main thing is not to be afraid to kill. Zhou Bei did not understand what he was talking about. Zhou Bei wondered if the monster chasing him could be a heavenly demon. Dr. Chong says that outside the base there is already hell with idle sky demons. Only this base, which Dr. Chong built with his own hands, is the only safe place. The doctor asked all the students if they doubted Dr. Chong's words. Then he also asked if it was true that the world had come to an end. By the way, Dr. Chong is the only adult in this place. The only good thing about the children being weak and helpless is that they are much better and easier to control. Zhou Bei mentally says that the children believe everything Dr. Chong tells them, but what if this Dr. Chong is speaking some kind of delusion, and if everything is normal outside of this strange base? He kept saying in his head that he absolutely needed to get out of this strange base and find out what Dr. Chong was talking about and find out what was really going on. Behind him stood some other strange students. They looked at him as if they heard what he was talking about. Zhou had not yet escaped from this rather strange base at night, when some very strange things began to happen. He heard someone's footsteps, and he could not understand who was walking there. He remembered how the girl had told him that he couldn't leave his room and even open the door to the corridor so that he wouldn't hear. He couldn't do that. He thought about her words. Zhou wondered why he heard some footsteps. Maybe it stopped at his door. He began to tiptoe slowly towards the door. He put his ear to the door and began to listen to what was happening there. But suddenly someone started pulling the handle from the other side. Zhou quickly jumped back. He was very scared. He did not understand who could do such a thing. He looked at the pen, but it had not moved. He started to listen again to what is happening behind the door. Zhou thinks in his mind that whoever is walking there must have stopped and is standing. Suddenly he noticed something behind him. He turned back and saw a huge scary cat with red eyes filled with aggression. He was lying on the bed and there was a big black shadow over him. But who was it? Zhou jumped out of bed. He was very frightened. On the side, he again saw a shadow, the silhouette of which resembled a cat. It was his neighbor, a little girl Aisha. She started telling him that he finally woke up. She would eat his breakfast, but he still wouldn't be there. Zhou was surprised that morning had already come. The girl Aisha sat cutely on a chair and looked at Zhou. Zhou asked her if anything very strange had come into the room last night. She looked at him and asked how someone could enter the room. The door is always closed. The girl Aisha worriedly asked her brother if he had a terrible dream. She jumped down from the chair that stood next to Zhou's bed. The girl said that she was going to the dining room because she was already very hungry. Zhou began to say in his mind that only Aisha was in this room with him last night. Maybe that monster was her. Her silhouette is very similar to that monster. Her tails are very similar to cat ears. Night came again. In their room there were oriental incenses on the washstand. The smell of them spread throughout the room. Aisha was very worried that Zhou would have nightmares again, so she asked Dr. Chong for an oriental incense stick. They should help him. He was lying in his bed and thought that she was a child. She couldn't be a monster 100%. The stick of oriental incense worked well. Zhou began to fall asleep, but he could not sleep normally again. He began to wake up and realize that something was pressing him very hard. Maybe it was the same demon. He woke up, and a small, white cat was sitting at his feet. Zhou saw a cat next to him and realized that it was not a demon, but an ordinary cat. The cat asked if it was the same Zhou. Zhou asked the cat if it was talking to him. He wondered that it was quite strange that the voice sounded directly in his head, but in what sense it sounded in his head. Zhou asked the cat if he was the same woman who told him about the system. Kotick replied that it is the same woman. He says that Zhou is so timid, so unpredictable, so stupid. Why him? Maybe he cheated the system somehow. What did he do? Zhou got angry and shouted that enough is enough. He asked if she brought him here. Lately the laziness points are not growing and he can't even use his strength to the fullest. He doesn't know what to do about it. The woman told him that if he wanted to know everything, he needed to find her and get her out of where she was now. The woman says that the one he sees her now is a dream she left him with the last reserves of her spiritual power. She continued to say that her body was in this underground base. Suddenly he opened his eyes and woke up. He asked why she didn't tell him where exactly on this base her body was before leaving. He began a searched the second and third floors, but found nothing. The first floor is off-limits due to contamination, and the fifth floor is off-limits to everyone except Dr. Chong. Zhou had to take the opportunity to help bring supplies to fully explore the ground floor first. A boy approached Zhou and asked why he was lazy. He needed to work. If not to work, then why did he come there at all? Zhou wondered if this was not the boy he used to go to class with. Zhou told him that he was an arrogant snob. Suddenly, he met Dr. Chong in the warehouse. Zhou mentally says that he lives there. They feed him, so he needs to behave normally, because it will be pretty bad for him. He kept saying in his mind that he would have a chance to escape. This devil cat didn't say everything and made Zhou Bei work hard. If he found her, the system should work and he could protect himself. Finally, Zhou Bei got rid of Dr. Chong and that annoying boy. He needs to search the 4th floor very quickly. It is necessary to find the cat's body in order to find out all the information that she has to tell him. Zhou Bei says that he can't even find it on the 4th floor, so where is this cat? He will not get to the 1st floor. He has already searched everything on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th floors. Her body is nowhere there, only the 5th floor remains, and this is a laboratory that only Dr. Chong can enter. In other words, simpler, the cat's body should be in the laboratory, on the 5th floor, but Zhou Bei still doesn't know how to get there. This is the heavenly squad. Suddenly Zhou Bei heard some very strange sounds. From the large container, someone could be heard saying that it was a heavenly rescue team. The voice from the container continued to say that they were providing worldwide freedom of action for humans. There was a table in the container, and on that table was a radio. From the radio it was heard that all the survivors were being asked, but Zhou Bei did not listen. He started running towards the radio. He quickly picked up the radio. But the radio went silent. There was only silence. Zhou Bei did not understand what the heavenly rescue team was. He thought that there might be people there. Zhou Bei remembered that Dr. Chong had told them in class that this base was the last survivors. Is Dr. Song lying? There are living people on the outside, they can even save them, but why is Dr. Chong hiding this from them? Next to the radio, Zhou Bei was sweating someone's diary. There were many strange things written in it. Don't open the door, it will just eat them. Her stomach hurts more and more. Something is about to pop out. She hasn't seen Hoku for a long time. It must be his 8. What to do? Whose diary is this? Zhou Bei raised his head and was born on the wall. He was shocked. He did not understand who was depicted in those pictures. Maybe it was Zhou Bei. This place is quite secret. Then who could have drawn all these pictures? Suddenly he heard something behind him. He didn't understand who was there. Maybe it was Dr. Chong. The door opened and a girl entered. Her face was not visible behind her black hair. She was wearing a white shirt. Zhou Bei was very scared. He thought it was a ghost. The girl had a metal pipe in her hands. She asked him how he found this place. She thought to herself that it was too bad he had found this place. Zhou Bei sat on the floor very frightened. He began to say that he suddenly heard the radio and went to the sound. He asked the girl if it was her secret or if it was her secret place. Zhou Bei apologized to the girl for breaking into the room. He began to assure her that he would never tell anyone about this place. The girl told Zhou Bei that her name was Alice, and she apologized to him and said that she was very sorry. Zhou Bei began to remember that he had heard that name before, Alice. He remembers that there was a girl who sat on the desk behind him in the classroom. Alice asked Zhou Bei what he saw. Zhou Bei thought, maybe she was testing him. Why not take the opportunity to question her? The boy tells the girl that he saw a diary and a picture of heavenly demons on the wall. And he also saw in that container her stocks of supplies and translators for communication with the outside world. Zhou Bei asked the girl what she was up to. Alice was worried. Now that everything is revealed, what should she do now? Can she tell him about everything, or can she trust him at all? Zhou Bei started to say in his mind that this girl has a big secret. She is doing all this behind Dr. Chong's back. Then he can try. He asked Alice if she thinks Dr. Song is hiding something from everyone. Alice began to worry even more, but quickly answered that of course not. He is not hiding anything. Dr. Chong is an adult who cares for them. Zhou Bei immediately understood that she was lying to him and did not trust Dr. Chong. Zhou Bei says that he thinks there is something wrong with Dr. Chong and this base. What with them and all the other children? The boy noticed that her caution was suppressed. Zhou Bei asked Alice when she first began to suspect Dr. Chong. She began to say that the children, at this very strange base of Dr. Chang's, began to disappear from time to time. Some of them would come back after a while and were very irritated, and she and Bendo felt very strange. Alice continued to tell that suddenly she found this diary in bed. He and Bendo decided to go in search of the truth. They searched almost all 5 floors, everywhere they could, but they could not find the children who had disappeared. Then Bendo also disappeared. When Bendo returned, he became a completely different person. Alice once again showed him this diary, but he replied that he did not remember what it was. Zobei asked Alice what happened before Bendo disappeared. Alice said that Bendo went to the lab on the 5th floor. This lab is equipped with a fingerprint lock that only Dr. Chong can unlock. After Bendo came back from the lab, his personality changed a lot. She didn't understand why Dr. Chong had brought Bendo to the lab. Those disappearing children look like Dr. Chong did it all. Maybe it's just Dr. Chong's hoax and the world isn't ending. Alice says that she wants to get out of this base to the surface as soon as possible. Zobei asked how they would get out. Alice began to tell that there is a direct exit to the outside world, but in order to get out, they need to find an electronic key and then use it to open that door. She and Bendo searched the entire base. This electric key can only be found in the laboratory on the 5th floor. Zobei realized that the cat's body could also be on the 5th floor of the laboratory. Whether it's the so-called electronic map, the missing children, Bendy's changed personality, the cat, the survival system, or the secret of the base, and even Dr. Chong, it's all connected to the 5th floor, which is the laboratory. He needs to find a way to get in there and see the truth. But Zobei still does not know how to break the lock and how to enter the laboratory. Alice says he needs to go in through the vent. She and Bendo find a vent pipe that leads straight into the lab. She wanted to go down together to find the electric key, but before they could go in and investigate the ventilation, Bendo's personality changed drastically. She thought Dr. Chong saw her, so she didn't go out. Zobei tells Alice to tell him the location of the ventilation ducts and he will get the key. She was very surprised by what she heard. Zobei tells her not to worry. He's not just trying to help her, he also wants to get out of there as soon as possible. He wants to see with his own eyes what it's like outside, but all this time a boy has been listening to their conversation. Zobei says that they will check if the end of the world is true. Zobei left the room. He says that at night the base is quite dark, he can't even see anything. He began to remember the conversation with Alice. Zobei asked Alice what kind of demon was depicted in the picture, and she answered that it was a devouring demon. He began to think in his mind that this cat can eat people. What did he do to deserve it? She can eat him too. Finally he reached the entrance to the basement, the laboratory. Even if it is a dragon's lair, he still has to go down there and check. He is a man with the power of gods. Zobei remembered Alice's words that he would see a door there. He went to the door and began to listen for the noise behind it. Then there will be a corridor. Zobei continued to remember everything that Alice said. She said that the ventilation pipe to the laboratory should be nearby. Someone was standing under the wall in this corridor. He touched something soft with his hand. He was very scared, but suddenly someone covered his mouth with a hand. It was Alice. She thought he would be here tonight and she decided to go down with him. Zobei asked her to let go of her hand because she was strangling him. She quickly removed her hand and said that she was not strangling him. You need to use the energy aura to see the whole area. It was very dark and scary in the corridor. Zobei says that there must be someone else there. He and Alice stood very scared. Alice quickly hugged Zobei. Zobei measured the energy aura. The maximum it can be used for is 10 meters from him. The spiritual energy can sense space and all these feelings of Zobei, but if it is used too often, it will tire him out quite quickly. The entrance door to this corridor was closed when Zobei got there, and there was a dead end ahead. The front and back walls are closed. How this person got inside and where he hid after attacking Zhou Bei was completely unclear. Alice was so close in front of Zhou Bei that no one could stand between them and grab his neck. Zhou Bei finally understood everything. There was a ventilation pipe. This person came out by himself through the ventilation. Since Zhou Bei was not too far from the ventilation pipe, this person could start choking him and quickly escape through the ventilation pipe. Someone was watching Alice and Zhou Bei through the grate that was on the ventilation pipe. Zhou Bei noticed this and was very alarmed. He took Alice by the hand and said that they should run quickly from there. As he thought the air vents were open, he wondered if his attacker was still there. Why did he attack him, or was it possible that their location had been declassified? Zhou Bei tells Alice that it can be quite dangerous there, she should always stay close to him. Alice replied that she had listened to his advice and would definitely follow them, but asked her not to scare him anymore. Finally, they climbed up the ventilation pipe to the laboratory. Zhou Bei checked to see if anyone was there and said that he will take Alice down there first. Alice tells him that it is pretty high up there. What is he going to do? Zhou Bei listens to her and uses spiritual energy to lower her down into the lab. Immediately after her, he jumped out of the ventilation pipe himself. Spirit power can be used in many ways, so can raising and lowering oneself. Alice asked Zhou Bei how he did it. He replied that it was quite a long story, but they needed to find something to begin with. Zhou Bei asked Alice where they would start their search. Zhou Bei says that somehow he feels like someone is watching them. They began to slowly walk around the laboratory and see what was there. Alice looked at all the horror that was there. Alice froze and started looking somewhere. Zhou Bei asked her what happened. She said only one word, Bendo. Zhou Bei raised his head. There was a large aquarium filled with water and lit up in green. There was a person in that aquarium, but it had a very strange appearance. Suddenly, this person opened his eyes and looked at Zhou Bei and Alice. Alice started screaming, Bendo, what happened to him? And Zhou Bei told her not to be so nervous. He tells Alice to calm down. First they need to find the electrical switch. They also need to find a way to get out and contact the saviors, then go back and save all the people Dr. Chong is holding. Suddenly, Zhou Bei heard a voice saying that Zhou Bei didn't need the system, he was asking to save it. In the same aquarium as Bendo's, there was a cat that Zhou Bei was looking for. She begged to save her, to let her out of there. He had already found her. Zhou Bei lifted the rack with spiritual energy and threw it into the aquarium with the cat. He hit right into the aquarium. The aquarium began to crack and the same cat began to crawl through the small cracks. It was a pretty cute little white cat. It had two tails tied with red bows. But suddenly this cat started attacking Zhou Bei and saying that he is just a dumbass, now he is all hers. The cat started flying at Zhou Bei and said that he would eat him. But Zhou Bei used his spiritual energy again. He started throwing the cat from side to side and hitting it on the floor. All this was watched by Bendo and Alice. They were shocked by what they saw. Zhou Bei tells the cat that she is not so cunning. She tried to deceive him, but she did not succeed. He immediately understood what she was up to. Alice began to say to Zhou Bei that it was just amazing, her older brother could appease demons, and Zhou Bei replied that it was just small things. Suddenly, someone entered the laboratory. Zhou Bei told Alice to hide very quickly. It was Dr. Chong. He placed an electronic key on the table. There were a lot of ampoules with some kind of liquid near the electronic key. The doctor took one of them, opened it and began to draw liquid from the ampoule into the syringe. The cat quickly hid behind Zhou Bei and said that this man had come there again. Dr. Chong began to tell Bendo that it was time for his injection. Zhou Bei was sitting at the table and didn't understand how the cat got into him, what she did. Zhou Bei began to think that they needed to come up with something to take the electronic key and quickly escape from there, while Dr. Chong began to look for the trash can. Alice and Zhou Bei were sitting right next to the trash can. Dr. Chong saw the trash can and started walking towards it. The boy looked to the left, thought to run quickly there, but there was a dead end. It is too late for them to run to the right side because Dr. Chong can see them. Suddenly, Zhou Bei saw a syringe fly right in front of him and fall into the trash. Zhou Bei and Alice exhaled. Dr. Chong didn't see them. It was quite a relief for them. Zhou Bei once again applied spiritual energy and took the electronic key from the table while Dr. Chong could not see anything. He and Elisa were very happy. They finally got what they had been looking for so long. The cat told Zhou Bei to take another gem of hers. He didn't understand what she was talking about. Which other gem? The spirit stone was right next to Dr. Chong. She told him to go and get it. This gem was much more important than he could imagine. Zhou Bei replied that it was very dangerous. He would come back and get it, but another time. But the cat told him that without this gem, the system would not work at all. Zhou Bei stopped and Alice rested her face directly on his back. Zhou Bei used spiritual energy again and took this gem right from under Dr. Chong's nose. Dr. Chong saw this and did not understand what was happening. All the things in the room went up in the air. Dr. Chong was very surprised. Zhou Bei then shouted at Dr. Chong that he was very sorry and threw all the things he had picked up in the air right at the doctor. Zhou Bei quickly picked up that precious stone. He grabbed Alice by the hand and said that they must now run away from there very quickly. He turned back and suddenly noticed something that surprised him very much. Dr. Chong kept all these things up in the air. His eyes were filled with aggression. He also knows how to use spiritual energy just like Zhou Bei. Zhou Bei and Alice ran away from the doctor very quickly. Zhou Bei began to say that they finally succeeded. Now they need to open the door very quickly and get out of this very scary and strange base. Alice started to cry and Zhou Bei comforted her and told her not to worry. There are saviors out there. The two of them will get out first and then they will find someone to come back for all the other people that Dr. Chong is forcibly holding. Zhou Bei will insert the electronic key into the door. The system worked and the door began to open. Elisa's chest began to hurt very badly. Zhou Bei didn't understand what happened to Alice. His chest also started to hurt, but we'll come back to that a little later. They finally left the base. They passed through a very long and dark tunnel. When they were finally outside, they stopped and just stood there looking at the beauty. It was night outside, but it was so beautiful that you couldn't even tear your eyes away. Alice asked Zhou Bei if it was heaven. The sky was strewn with millions of stars, and on the ground grew a very beautiful green grass with incredible flowers. Alice and Zhou Bei began to rejoice and run on the grass. Alice began to roll on the green and soft grass. Alice says that she wants everyone else to come here too. Zhou Bei tells her that it's not like the end of the world at all. Zhou Bei turned on the radio and put on his headphones. He does not know whether the rescue team is transmitting the distress signal at full range or not. He started tuning the radio. Zhou Bei tells Alice that he hopes at least someone will find them. Suddenly they heard someone driving in their direction. They quickly hid in the grass. It was a man dressed in a space suit. That person wearing a spacesuit was Dr. Chong. Zhou Bei quickly grabbed Alice's hand and they started running away together. Suddenly, Alice was enveloped in spiritual energy. Zhou Bei realized that it was Dr. Chong's spiritual energy. He was trying to take Alice away. Zhou Bei also tried to take Alice to himself with his spiritual energy. But suddenly something very strange began to happen to Elisa. Her chest began to hurt and blood flowed from her mouth. Everything started to happen to Zhou Bei exactly the same as to Alice. He fell to his knees and began to ask Dr. Chong what he had done with them. Dr. Chong replied that he did absolutely nothing. The spiritual energy of this world was completely infected. If they do not wear any protection, then their body is subject to destruction. In order for the body to begin to break down, it will be enough to be there for only half an hour to die. Zobei began to remember the laboratory, how he saw Bendo there. He was almost in the same state. Zobei was sitting on the grass with no strength, blood was flowing from his mouth. Dr. Chong tells them that they better believe him. Outside the base is an entire area that is not suitable for a normal and fulfilling life. Dr. Chong lifted Alice and Zobei up with spiritual energy and said that it was time for them to return to base. Suddenly, something began to hiss in the grass. A lot of different creatures, and all kinds of bugs and mice, ran to Zobei's radio. Suddenly someone spoke on the radio, reception. A large green snake crawled up to the radio, and on the radio station someone was calling for help from the rescue team. Zobei says that he escaped the base with Alice. When they were out of the base for a short time, Alice fell to the ground with very severe chest pains. Dr. Chong brought Alice and Zobei back to the lab to cure them. Zobei tells that the pain in the chest that was mentioned in the records is just because they went outside the base. Zobei didn't understand it yet. Zobei kept asking Alice for forgiveness. Suddenly, Bendo came to the aquarium with Alice. After a few days, Zobei's body fully recovered. It was quite fast, he thought it would take much longer. Suddenly, Zobei began to suspect something, namely that Bendo must also be coming out of this base. Dr. Chong came to Zobei and covered him with a blanket. He told the boy that he was quite a guesser. Dr. Chong began to tell that Bendo stole the electronic key. Bendo was very worried that it was dangerous there, so he went alone. If it is absolutely safe outside, then he will return to the base again and will definitely take Alice with him. At that moment, Dr. Chong was in the final stages of his research and then failed to stop Bendo in time. Bendo had been outside for over an hour when Dr. Chong found him. All his efforts to save Bendo were unsuccessful. Zobei asked Dr. Chong if it was even possible to save Alice. Dr. Chong replied that she would be 100% fine, she would just be slightly unconscious and nothing else would happen to her. The doctor tells Zobei that he is special. Awakening of spiritual power increases resistance. Zobei asked the doctor why he let them escape. With his power he could stop Alice and Zobei with ease. The doctor says that Zobei has spiritual power, so he must figure it out himself. Zobei keeps wanting to run away, so Dr. Chong decided to give him the chance to do so that he would learn a lesson. The cat in Zobei's head began to say that he was a good person. If he hadn't saved Zobei, he would probably have died by now. Zobei asked her how she could afford to say such things, what was going on here. The cat says that she has lost her memory, she only remembers that she has to give him something about the survivor system. Zobei did not understand how, in what sense she lost her memory. Didn't she say that she would tell him everything when he pulled her out of that aquarium? The cat replies that she lied to Zobei, otherwise he wouldn't have saved her. Zobei became very angry. Zobei started saying to Dr. Chong that he didn't understand one more thing. If he wanted to release Zobei from this base, then why did he choke him in the ventilation pipe? Dr. Chong replies that it definitely wasn't him because he was in the lab all night. Zobei wondered if it wasn't Dr. Song who was strangling him, then who was strangling him? Suddenly, something really surprised him. He realized that there were two Bendos. Zobei asked Dr. Chong if Bendo didn't run outside and was very infected to save himself. Why then there are two Bendos in the base and one in the lab on the verge of death and the other is safe and undamaged sitting in the classroom with everyone other students. The doctor looked at Zobei. The doctor replied that it was still too early for him to know. Night came and Zobei lay in bed and wondered who it was that could be suffocating him in the ventilation pipe. Why doesn't Dr. Chong talk about the two Bendos? Maybe this is another world, or is it really the end of the world? Suddenly, Zobei began to have a very bad headache. The radio station was still lying near the cave, and above it was a very large snake. Suddenly, the snake in the sky began to disperse. After his recovery, Zobei went back to his old life. He ate, exercised, went to classes. Zhou Bei says that the strange thing is that Dr. Chong did not take the stone and did not say anything about the cat. But that's not the main thing right now. Zhou Bei needs to develop spiritual energy now. He still doesn't know what awaits him in the future, but it's better to have more opportunities to protect himself. The cultivation system of the survivors was blocked by Zhou Bei. Zhou Bei says that it is 100% the cat's fault that this system is not working. People call Christina the cutest and most important cat in the world. Zhou Bei says to the cat that it's enough pretending. Didn't she say that with the help of that gem you can activate the system? Christina the cat asked Zhou Bei why he was so angry. Did the system need a precious stone? Zhou Bei is very angry. This cat is lying to him again. It seems that she herself stole this precious stone. The cat was also angry. What Zhou Bei was saying was just some kind of delusion. Her stone was 100%. Zhou Bei tells Christina the cat to finally tell the truth. Why is this precious stone needed? Christina the cat replies that it's her amnesia. She doesn't remember anything at all. Zhou Bei got angry and told the cat that she doesn't know anything. Then why does he need her at all? She is just a pointless waste of time. Christina's cat started yelling at Zhou Bei that he was treating her with great disrespect again. Now she definitely won't tell him how to start the system. Zhou Bei began to calmly ask the cat if Christina's dear cat could teach him how to run the system. The cat replied to the boy that it was better. She was in his subconscious. She asked Zhou Bei to release her. The cat laughed and emerged from his subconscious. Zhou Bei smiled and told Christina's cat that he could control her as he wanted. The cat finally came outside and told Zhou Bei that he should have thought before doing something. He knows what he did. Zhou Bei asked Christina's cat if he wanted to pet her. The cat got angry and started yelling at Zhou Bei that she didn't need to do that. She didn't need to pet her. Zhou Bei tells Christina's cat not to make any more unnecessary movements. He asked the cat to figure out the system. The cat slapped Zhou Bei in the face. Zhou Bei asked her why she hit him, why she did it. All of a sudden the survivor qualification system has been unlocked. Have laziness points started to appear? If so, that's pretty awesome. Christina the cat says that the user manual of the system states that if something goes wrong as planned or as it should, he will definitely get hit on the head. Zhou Bei asked the cat what kind of silly system this is. Christina the cat tells Zhou Bei that it is finally time to teach Zhou Bei some techniques. Spiritual power is the power that develops a practice after it loses all its spiritual energy and merges with heaven and earth. It is the basis of everything. In order to discover something new, one must bring cultivation to a certain level. This cultivation method is very similar to a martial arts guide that determines your future fighting skills. It all depends on your level of fusion with the sky. The higher your equation in this, the stronger your spiritual power. Christina the cat asked Zhou Bei if he would like to become her student and learn to train with her. Christina's cat said in her mind, then she can take anything she wants from Zhou Bei. Suddenly the cat jumped out of its costume. Christina's cat returned to Zhou Bei's subconscious again. Zhou Bei says that he is a little stupid. Why didn't he immediately realize that just lying in bed can make him much stronger? The cat in Zhou Bei's subconscious says that this boy annoys her so much. Zhou Bei says that after all, he gains a little bit of laziness every second. He should be this strong by tomorrow morning. Morning came. Zhou Bei did not understand why only 200 laziness points had been accumulated. How could this be? He had been lying on the bed all night. There should have been more laziness points. Christina the cat starts telling Zhou Bei that the system doesn't just work like that. You can just do nothing after he wakes up. Zhou Bei says he thinks he's lost quite a bit of weight, but it's not a big deal. Zhou Bei says that one must first pump up spiritual power to definitely surpass Dr. Chong. Zhou Bei did not understand something. What he knows is that 1 point of laziness does not add 1 level of spiritual power. Why this time there are 10 of them? Cat Christina replies that the ratio has changed. Before the value of laziness to spiritual power was like 1 to 1, Now the value of laziness to spiritual power is like 10 to 1, Zhou Bei is very lucky. It would take a very long time for an ordinary person to strengthen his spiritual power energy. Zhou Bei listened to the cat and said that he would do it, and the cat told him that it was enough for him to calm down. Christina's cat says that you don't need to pump everything right away, because Zhou Bei's body needs to adapt. Has he forgotten the last time he added 10 points in one go and drove himself crazy? Zhou Bei says that's it. He thinks he should add other skills, such as the divine map. Christina the cat replied to Zhou Bei that this should not be done under any circumstances. The cat began to tell that if Zhou Bei did not have a strong foundation of spiritual power, then he would be absorbed by his own power and become a crazy monster. The divine card required a very high level of spiritual power. Zhou Bei says that the divine card is a powerful technique. In time, Zhou Bei reached the 30th level of spiritual power. It was already quite magnificent. Zhou Bei says that he has become much stronger. However, as spiritual power grows, Zhou Bei stood looking at something with very surprised eyes. Christina's cat started yelling at Zhou Bei not to look at those statues. They are eating away at his sensitive organs. She kept calling him and begging him to wake up. Zhou Bei fainted right in class and Dr. Song sent him back to the room. Zhou Bei woke up and asked Christina's cat what time it was, but the cat didn't have time to answer him. Suddenly someone started knocking on the door and pulling on the handle. Zhou Bei went to the door and asked who was there, and at that time Christina the cat quickly hid in Zhou Bei's subconscious. Zhou Bei opened the door and there stood Bendo. Zhou Bei mentally says that it's quite suspicious what Bendo wants from him. He asked Bendo if something happened. Bendo says that he has had enough of Dr. Chong, and he himself came to Zhou Bei to see if he is alive or not. Zhou Bei got angry and said in his mind that Bendo is just a normal bastard. The cat Christina in Zhou Bei's head begged him not to be so impulsive. He just regained his strength. Bendo says to Zhou Bei, if this whole story with them escaping from this base, which caused Alice to almost die, if it happens again, then Zhou Bei will definitely not live anymore. Bendo turned and walked away. Zhou Bei thought to himself, if this Bendo treats him so rudely, he must treat Alice the same way. A few days passed. Zhou Bei continued to study, but suddenly someone called him in the office. It was Alice. Dr. Song behind Alice tells all the children to sit down. It's time for class. Alice started to tell Zhou Bei that she heard he passed out a few days ago. She asked him if he was okay now. Zhou Bei says he's fine, but whether she's fine or recovered, Bendo said it still takes some time. Alice replied that Zhou Bei had nothing to worry about. She was fine. She was feeling much better than before. After the lessons, Alice and Zhou Bei met again in the same container. Zhou Bei asked Alice what happened to her hair. Alice replied that the doctor said that there was too much infection left at the ends of her hair that could not be neutralized, so she had to cut her hair a little shorter. Zhou Bei says that it's his fault. She almost didn't die because of him. Alice tells him that it's okay. She went with him herself. Alice goes on to say that it is true. No matter how it sounds, they still know the truth. Alice says that this is much better than holding on to empty hopes. Zhou Bei speaks. Alice. Tears appeared in Alice's eyes, like two small peas. She started saying that when she sees Bendo, she immediately thinks of Bendo in the lab. Alice says that she still doesn't know what to do with all this. Zhou Bei told Alice how Bendo came to his room and threatened him, so Zhou Bei thinks that it must be her Bendo. Suddenly the radio began to hiss. From the radio you could hear that the heavenly saviors were saying this. They were asking the people inside if they were all right. Now they are outside. Zhou Bei took the radio in his hands, told them to open the gate on the radio. Finally they had at least some hope. Zhou Bei happily says that rescuers have finally found them, adding that he didn't even know the rescue team even existed. Alice was also very happy and said that they were finally saved. The two of them held hands and began to run joyfully. Suddenly, something very strange began to happen. They began to fall down, everything began to collapse. Zhou was shocked, he didn't understand what was happening. They raised their heads to the mountain, they fell 5 stories to the bottom. Suddenly, a voice came from one of the speakers on the wall, telling everyone to go to the laboratory very quickly and not to walk around the base, of course, if they wanted to live. The voice kept repeating that everyone needs to go to the lab very quickly. Zhou tells Alice that it is Dr. Chang's voice. A voice from the speaker says that they were attacked by demons, they have come to an end. Zhou did not understand whether the demons are the same saviors. All the children were very scared and quickly went to the laboratory. Bendo was standing near the lab, he was telling everyone not to panic. Bendo continued to say that they would be perfectly safe in the lab. A little girl approached Bendo and told her older brother that she was very scared. Bendo leaned over her and began to reassure her that everything would be fine, not to worry, Dr. Chong would come to them as soon as he was done with his problems. Bendo told everyone to come in quickly. Suddenly, Zhou shouted loudly for everyone to stop. Zhou says that the entrance to the lab is only open to Dr. Chong, only Dr. Chong has the right to enter this lab. Alice asked Bendo how he could open the lab by himself without Dr. Chong. Zhou says that there is something wrong with this Bendo, it is 100% not the real Bendo. Bendo got angry and said he was the only one who cared. Zhou was very surprised that Bendo auras possess spiritual power. Zhou finally understood that the boy who was suffocating him in the ventilation was Bendo. They started to fight each other. Zhou also used his spiritual power. Zhou asked Bendo why there were 2 of him. Bendo told him that he would definitely not tell him here if he knew the truth. Bendo called him with him. The 2 of them went to the laboratory. Bendo began to tell that he was a clone of Bendo, that Bendo that was in the capsule was the real Bendo. Zhou was very surprised by what he heard. After Bendo escaped the base, Dr. Chong brought him back to the lab, the intact organs were cut out for copying, and he also restored his memory. That's how the second Bendo came out. Bendo opened some doors and said that he was not the only one who got out like that. Everyone who is currently in the base, they are all clones. All of them are like experimental mice that Dr. Chong uses for secret experiments on spiritual power. Bendo didn't understand how Dr. Chong could make all the clones. He also made a clone of Bendo when Dr. Chong copied him, he was still conscious. Bendo saw everything, he saw how he was made an exact copy of himself with his own eyes. But he also knew that these references referred to the former Bendo. Bendo begged Dr. Chong not to erase these memories on the condition that he become his assistant, that is, his right-hand man. But the copy of Bendo, it's still the same him. When Bendo became Dr. Chong's assistant, he gained access to the door to the laboratory. Bendo's job was to help Dr. Chong research ways to combat the apocalypse, using statues made from distorted, fallen celestial demons to force people to unknowingly start practicing, but a little carelessness can lead to mutation. The only way to continue the experiment is to cut off the undamaged part and grow a new clone. The rest of the organs and tissues are stored in that refrigerator. Bendo says he can't look at Alice anymore after what he's done. Zhou asked Bendo, then why don't they escape from there? Bendo asked if Zhou is referring to those heavenly saviors. If so, it's all just a myth. Suddenly, in the refrigerator, icicles started falling from the ceiling directly on Zhou and Bendo. They started to run away and Bendo tells Zhou that the sound of the explosion was very close, maybe it was the heavenly demons descending. They quickly ran to the laboratory, there was a lot of dust, Alice was sitting on the ground, everyone was very scared. Zhou asked Alice what happened, she replied that the door to the laboratory was completely destroyed. It was Dr. Chong, he is strong enough, he had to defeat the heavenly demons, his spiritual power would definitely be enough for him to do so. Dr. Chong stood there laughing, he says that a team of heavenly saviors has finally come to save them all. The little girl says it's Dr. Chong, he came to save everyone. Zobei replies that it's not Dr. Chong. Dr. Chong began to destroy everything in his path, all things broke and pieces flew in different directions. One of the pieces flew straight towards Alice. Zobei and Bendo tried to use their spirit energy to protect her. A piece flew straight into Alice's head. Bendo and Zobei were very upset, and at the same time a lot of aggression appeared in their eyes. Dr. Chong has transformed into a real bloodthirsty snake. He says that he really can't believe that there are children out there with little spiritual power, but they shouldn't even bother because all their efforts will be in vain. Zobei was surprised by what he saw. The cat Christina in Zobei's head was telling him to run away quickly. This is a real demon, he cannot be defeated. Bendo started to run towards the bloodthirsty snake. Suddenly Bendo started to remember something about how they met Alice. He tells her his name is Bendo. He asked her what her name was. She said her name was Alice. She wanted to eat very much. It was the very first Bendo's memories. Bendo asked Alice to wait a second. He calmed her down and gave Alice a small package. Bendo tells Alice that he is an adult and he will go and find food in such quantity that there will definitely be enough for everyone. No one will have to starve anymore. Bendo did not understand what happened to him now. Alice burst into tears at Bendo's words and was very happy. At first she did not believe that such a thing was even possible. Bendo began to stop himself so that he would not mention it again. But Bendo understood that he had to protect everyone. The bloodthirsty snake says that Bendo is very weak. The face of a person in despair is so funny. Zobei says in his mind that this devilish demon pretended to be the saviors of heaven and destroyed the whole world, everything that was alive. Christina's cat says in his head that it is definitely time for him to run away from there. The snake says that it was Zobei who called the heavenly rescue team. As it turned out later, the transmitter that Zobei left outside revealed the location of this base. It was he who brought the demons here. What did he do? The bloodthirsty snake tells Zobei that it sounds so sad that he wants to just kill him right now. Zobei sat on the ground very frightened and held Alice in his arms. Suddenly he felt something incomprehensible on his neck. It was a cut. Zobei was very scared. Was he going to die? But suddenly it was not clear where the cat Christina appeared from. Zobei did not understand what was happening. The bloodthirsty snake began to say again that it was Zobei who summoned the heavenly rescue team. The entrance to the laboratory was intact and undamaged. Alice asks Bendo if she remembers correctly that only Dr. Chong can open and enter this laboratory. Alice continued to ask Bendo why he could also open this door to the laboratory. Zobei didn't understand. Did it not happen before? It happened 5 minutes ago. Did the gem turn back time? Cat Christina says that it is also possible that they predicted the future. Let's say this stone is very valuable to them now. Suddenly the cat Christina screamed that her precious stone had cracked. Zobei says he will think and worry about it later. Now he needs to save everyone. Zobei tells Alice that this Bendo is a little hard right now. Alice did not understand what he was talking about. In what sense this Bendo? Zobei starts talking to Bendo. He says that he will need his help very much now and for Bendo to believe him. Suddenly, Zobei used his spiritual energy on all the children except Bendo and Alice. Bendo did not understand what this Zobei had done. Alice asked Zobei why he put them all to sleep. Zobei only reassured her. He said that everything would be fine. Zobei also put Alice to sleep and said that he would explain everything to her a little later if he was still alive in 5 minutes. Zobei tells Bendo to do something for him that should help them a lot. Put everyone in the freezer where the bodies are. He needs some time now. Bendo didn't understand how Zobei knew about the freezer. He was very surprised, but Zobei said that they should hide everyone there first. Christina the cat asked Zobei if it wouldn't freeze all these people to death. Zobei says that the vision of the bloodthirsty snake is infrared. If they hide all the people in the freezer, then he hopes that it will fool this heavenly demon. Christina the cat replies that it is not an ordinary demon, it is not so easy to fool. Bendo understood what had happened, he agreed that it was very terrible. Bendo asked Zobei why he pushed him so hard to lie down and rest. Zobei says that there is nothing he can do to finish the 200 points of laziness, he needs 3 minutes and 20 seconds to just lie there and do nothing. He hopes that he will be able to accumulate spiritual strength before the arrival of the heavenly demon. Suddenly something started happening. Bendo asked Zobei if it was the same demon he had been talking about. Zobei replied that yes, it was him. Dr. Chong arrived. Zobei shouted loudly now, he and Bendo stood up. They raised the aquariums with spiritual power. They threw them right at Dr. Chong. They all hit the same point and began to break. But Dr. Chong still turned into a bloodthirsty snake. He began to hiss very obnoxiously. Bendo tells Zobei that the liquid that neutralizes the pollution in the car is indeed working on the celestial demon. Christina the cat asked Zobei if he wanted to level up to level 20 right away. Zobei's nose began to bleed. Christina's cat began to reassure him that he should not do such a thing. Zobei says that everything is worth it to him, the main thing for him is to save all the other people that they hid in the freezer with Bendo. Zobei shouted loudly to Bendo to turn it on. Bendo turned on the pipe, which sucked everything in its path, and held the pipe with all his might. Bendo pointed the pipe directly at the bloodthirsty snake. The bloodthirsty snake was sucked straight into the aquarium that Bendo and Zobei had prepared for it. If you have watched up to this point, then I am very grateful to you, because this is where the video ends. If it's not difficult for you, then like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to continue this story, then write in the comments. Thank you all, I love you all.